All right, Chiefs Kingdom, you got a new wide receiver, so we have a new guest for you. We got to fill you in on Kadarius Toney. It happened today. We're going to go through it all with Brandon Olson, our guy at Locked On. We'll get to it here right now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free on every platform I know of, and probably some that I don't. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out, let's see, is it Locked On Gators? Is it Locked On Giants? Is it Locked On NFL Today? Where are you at, Brandon?
I am locked on Gators every day, just like you guys are, and with Giants Country of SI.com, which is run by the host of Locked On Giants, Patricia Traynor.
See, it's all together. We're all together, folks. We give you the full gamut. And so what we're going to do is break down the trade that came down today. It is for a third, the Chiefs' actual compensatory pick, as well as a conditional 6. We'll get to all the details. Obviously, you know Brandon now. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL33.com, RGRFootball.com, and RogueAPC.com.
And I'm Chris Clark. Thank you all for listening. And Brandon, thank you for coming. I'm really looking forward to this because we get a little bit more of a background on Kadarius Toney, considering your time with the Florida Gators as well as the Giants. So there you go.
Yeah, I can tell you that my heart's broken. I can tell you that much.
I know for you, it's got to be tough. Ground is the perfect way to be because he's been on the ground or grounded quite a bit. So let's talk about his physical condition now. I see a lot on the message boards and a lot of complaints around Twitter about, hey, this guy can't play. You have to be a player to be an athlete. How hurt is he? What has been the situation in the last, say, 2 weeks?
I mean, so he's been tweeting today as if he's fine. He was like, he's irrelevant. People don't need to know, which is great. The thing with Kadarius Toney for me has always been the best ability is availability, and he's always been banged up. This is not this new thing. I know that I had friends texting me. They were like, hey, well, the Chiefs medical staff has to be better than the Giants, right? Sure, maybe, but even then, he was hurt in college. He's not someone who is always healthy. Like, injuries have been a thing for Kadarius Toney. It's always been an issue for him. But, I mean, if he's healthy, he's one of the most dynamic football players that I've ever seen. So, fantastic for you guys.
But that's the key. It's the question of whether or not he's going to be healthy. And so what I want to say really quick is, yeah, they gave up a third. Yeah, they gave up a sixth. But to me, there's more upside here regardless because I'll be honest with you, when this trade first broke, I didn't like it because I thought they gave up too much. But the more I think about it, Kadarius Toney, if he can stay healthy even 8 games this season, that's a huge boost to this offense. And if he's available in the playoffs, that's a huge boon to this team to be able to do different things for them.
Folks, we're brought to you today by SimpliSafe. Check them out because that's the question is this a safe pick? Is it tell me about the relationship in New York. Dable in particular, I actually felt going into the season, new coach, a guy that's super creative, that's going to find a way to use him. Why didn't that happen?
I genuinely am floored by it because, Dable got hired and it was like, oh man, like they're going to have so much fun using Kadarius Toney. And then they drafted Wan'Dale Robinson in the second round out of Kentucky, who's a very similar player. I don't think he's as good as Kadarius Toney, but a similar skill set. And that immediately started the whole, is Kadarius in the long-term plans in East Rutherford? And Brian Dable said, yes, he was, that they were going to build this offense around utilizing the both of them, modern NFL, very pace and space kind of thing. And then it just never really came to fruition. Kadarius Toney, whether it was him getting hurt, whether it was off-field, I guess, disagreements that he's had with this coaching staff, whatever it was, it never panned out. And I will say, Kadarius Toney is the kind of player where you want to manufacture touches for him. That wasn't a thing that the Giants coaching staff really seemed intent on doing. And they haven't even done that really that much with Wan'Dale Robinson. He's got a couple of screens here and there, but for the most part, they've been saying, hey, if you get open, you'll get the ball. But we're not going to kind of cater the offense towards you, which is how Kadarius Toney was always used as that gadget type player, which a lot of people like to use as a negative. I think it's a very positive thing. I think if you can be someone where it's like, hey, here's the ball, go make a play. I think that's a fantastic thing to have. But it just seemed like something that Brian Daboll never really seemed interested in doing, and it's just never worked out.
Well, Chris, you don't seem very impressed at this point.
It's not that I'm not impressed. I look at this and I understand where he's coming from, and I understand what Brandon's saying. I guess my question is, when you sit here and you look at what the Giants have at wide receiver, for them to be willing to trade away a guy with this type of talent says a lot to me. That's the other side of this trade for me that I think is something that we're going to have to really look into. Now, Kansas City does have the ability to keep him for several years on his contract at a pretty cheap amount for what he brings. And this could be a move that they're looking at for more 23-24 versus this year. But it's just still a big question mark in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, from the Giants' end, I was floored. I can tell you that. I was like, I'm floored they got rid of him. And honestly, pleasantly surprised how much they got for him, because I thought it'd be nothing at that point.
And that's a great point, because the other thing that really stands out to me when you start looking at it from the Giants' perspective, they weren't the ones that drafted him. Gettleman's gone. So to me, this is a look at, okay, well, he isn't really something that we're using a lot of right now. We can go out and we can pick whoever we want with the picks we're getting for him, and it frees up cap space. So it's a win-win for them. And they're already in a situation where they're doing very well this season.
Gotta love it. I love it. I know you guys love it. I want to get more in depth though. So we're going to go back in time in this next segment. I see a lot of you. We are live, folks. If you happen to be live, I know you have questions. I see them in the chat. I think we'll go to that in the third segment. For now, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. We're going to see what there is to be had after we tell you about our pals from SimpliSafe.
SimpliSafe is amazing. Here's a sports analogy for you. When it comes to burglars, your home is like the end zone, and you need the absolute strongest defense you can muster. This is why I use and trust SimpliSafe Home Security. At SimpliSafe, your security is the only thing that matters. It's cutting-edge technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back, so you always know your home is safe. With 24/7 professional monitoring, SimpliSafe's agents call you the moment that a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when the threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Our monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real, so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
Now, everybody, don't forget to check out the Locked On Sports Today feed. It's brand new. You can get it on Odyssey or wherever you get your pods. Should be on YouTube as well. You want to know that because I know I don't have any interest outside of football, but maybe you guys do. It's okay. We are back. Brandon Olson, our special guest, who has covered Kadarius Toney for, I don't know, as long as I've been alive. No, wait, nobody's that old. But for a very long time. And I want to go back down memory lane because as we talked about in the first segment, it hasn't been a very clean development path for Kadarius in the NFL. So let's go back to Florida. Obviously, you're a fan. You've watched him down there in the swamp. I love the thing over your shoulder. That's great. For me, and I don't want you to take this personally, Brandon, but as a supporter and a guy who's watched him forever, I'm reading my notes from his draft class. Extreme athlete, can break it at any second, but kind of a knucklehead, quote unquote, from my notes. Tell me where I'm wrong.
You're not. Okay. I can't tell you that you're wrong. I can say, like, a lot of, and I'm doing this from a Gators perspective here, but a lot of Florida fans like to compare Kadarius Toney to Percy Harvin because Percy Harvin was that dynamic. He was Debo before Debo. That's how he was used in college. And Kadarius Toney is not that. He's similar, but different in the sense where I've seen a lot of Chiefs fans go, oh, Kadarius, the next Tyreek Hill. Also, no, Kadarius is not the same type of player. He is very fast, but Kadarius is the human joystick. That's what he is. He is He doesn't have ACLs and you can't convince me that he does, because there's no way anybody with ACLs can move the way that he moves. I will not accept it. He can make something out of absolutely nothing. He can make a massive play out of absolutely nothing. One of my favorite plays in Florida history at this point was Kadarius Toney caught a screen. Missouri had like 4 defenders all over it, and he housed it. And it was just insane. And so I think Kadarius Toney, he is dynamic with the ball in his hands, hasn't necessarily shown the ability to really consistently, I don't want to say that he can't consistently get open, because he moves like nobody else, but he freestyles. You call him a knucklehead. He freestyles way too much as a route runner, and that's been an issue for him.
And I just want to say really quick, the one thing that sticks out to me with what you said, Brandon, is that with his ability to be a human joystick, what is the one thing Kansas City has been facing so much this season? It is man coverage, and it's trying to get wide receivers open, and that's where they've struggled at times, is getting a guy open. This is a move that really is, I think, in some ways is really going to help them in that aspect. But when you start talking about route running and being a guy that freestyles a bit, that's a problem. Although, look at who Kansas City's best wide receiver is, or if you want to call him a tight end, he's really more like a wide receiver. Travis Kelce freestyles all the time. It's a question of, can Mahomes and Toney get on the same page, much like Kelce and Mahomes have?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things where Patrick Mahomes, as you all know, he plays backyard football at certain times where he gets moving and he extends plays way longer than any human should be able to. And eventually someone will get open. And Kadarius Toney is that someone that could get open. You can use him underneath. That's one thing that I loved when Brian Daboll got hired, was that Brian Daboll will have Kadarius Toney just work underneath and create the plays himself. That obviously never happened. I believe that we can accept that Andy Reid will probably make that happen at some point. And like we mentioned, the backyard football, Kadarius Toney can get open underneath and get open deep, and I think that he is an extender's best friend, we'll say, where if you're a quarterback that can extend the pocket and extend the play, you're going to love having Kadarius Toney, because he's going to just give you so many gimmies at that point.
See, now that gets me a little fired up there. You making me happy here, Brandon. So you hit it on my big point earlier. He's not Tyreek. I feel like part of the Giants experiment was they forced him to try to line up and run routes, stem and break, just like you want somebody like Tyreek to do. I see him in 2 roles. One, as a returner, and 2, quite honestly, in a lot of the things that we saw Tyreek give way to Cole Hardman lately, and what they've been trying to do with Sky Moore in a lot of the jet motion stuff, a lot of alignment in the slot, and take what's there. Does that feed into what you would do with him?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you're obviously the much better draft analyst, but I did draft work as well. And when he was coming out of the draft, I was not saying Kadarius Toney was Tyreek Hill or Percy Harvin. He was a more athletic Randall Cobb. Like, use him in the slot, use him in these motion, these handoffs, these sweeps, whatever you want to do. Use him as a slot receiver underneath. He's not the type of guy that's just going to outrun everybody. He could do it in college against the lesser teams, but he couldn't do it against elite athletes. He couldn't do it against NFL players. That's just not what he does. But I do think that, if you use him underneath and you use him in these gadgety type situations and as a slot receiver, you can find a ton of success with him. Part of it's just, getting on the field actually.
Well, and I'm glad you point that out, that he's not Tyreek. I know you've said that a couple of times. The other point that I'd like to point out is Tyreek Hill is underrated as a route runner. And that is such a big part of his game that people do not give him credit for. He is so much more than just a speed guy. But the thing that really makes me smile about this, when I start sitting back and looking at it, is now you have to look at Kansas City and you have to say, okay, who the crap are we going to cover? Kelce, Juju, MVS, Mecole Hardman had a great game last week. And I really do think if Toney is healthy, he could actually play some snaps. Now, is he going to play a lot of snaps? No, but he could play some snaps against the Titans. And like Ryan said earlier, and we've talked about a little bit, maybe he's the return guy. Maybe that takes something off of Sky Moore's plate, which gives him an ability to be more in the offense, be more involved in the offense.
Yeah, I think especially as a return man, I've seen the chat has brought that up quite a few times. Where
Wonder why that is.
Yeah, he did that in college, and he was very good at it. He didn't do it often. He was used kind of. I'm sorry to do this to your chat because I've seen them bring this name up often as well. But he is what the Giants used to do with Odell. That's what the Gators did with Kadarius Toney, where it's like, we don't want you as our permanent returner because you're a valuable asset. But if we need a play, we'll do that. And I think that when you have the Chiefs, you can, I don't want to say he's expendable, but the offense doesn't crumble without him. And so you can use him more consistently as a return man where he shined whenever he had the opportunity in Gainesville.
Yeah, almost like a Patrick Peterson type.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can use them to your full effect. And we're going to get into your questions as we do see the chat going on. I need some help with that. I need better help from it, Chris. So if you would grab some of those questions, kind of stack those up, we'll get ready because now it is time for a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. It is the thing that will help you in either solving problems, trying to put together these packages of draft picks for a player. You have to make those kind of not just value assumptions, but projections. And that's what does it. You need help with that. You got to have the confidence to do it as well. And sometimes you need a little help getting there. Do you use therapy? Is it the easiest thing? Not for everyone, no. But this helps quite a bit. It lets you get that confidence back. It lets you relieve some of your stress, feel more like yourself, and be able to cut through all that thing that you have to work out all these giant deals. I would not be surprised if Brett Veach is a staunch supporter of this process, because if you're thinking of giving better therapy a try, BetterHelp is the way to do that. It is the best option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. You get matched with a therapist after filling out a survey, so you get that kind of one-to-one, but you can switch therapists at any time. So if it doesn't work out, you are in control of what you're getting and who you're speaking to. Whether you want to be a better problem solver, a better draft analyst, or start dealing trades with Brett Veach, therapy can help you. BetterHelp.com/lockedon is the way to do it. You get 10% off of your first month. So don't forget, check out BetterHelp.com/lockedon and get yourself what you need. All right, Chris, talk to me. Who's got the biggins? I know they're out there. Got to unmute them.
Got to unmute. There are lots of questions. I'm going to just pick, what's his health status? Will this be a return specialist? How will it help this year? This is from First Last. And this was actually kind of talked about a little bit. It sounds like, based on what, and I saw this too, Brandon, so I'm glad you pointed it out. He's tweeting that he's healthy right now. So there's also a question whether or not the Giants were just holding him out because they knew they were going to trade him. Mm-hmm. So you have to wonder about that. I don't know that he's going to be a return specialist per se, but I do think that that's going to be his starting role. I think that's where they're probably going to use him to start, because you can only get him involved in the offense so quickly. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Cali Cash, OBJ is out of the question now, I guess. I really don't think so. To me, this doesn't change that. If they were ever in the OBJ stakes, they're still in the OBJ stakes, is the way I look at it.
$755K for Kadarius this year. This has zero effect on OBJ. If you guys really want to scare the NFL, wait another 48 hours and put him on this roster. I dare you. I double dog dare you. I think even Brandon would enjoy that, right?
I'd rather have Brian Burns, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, that's not a free agency signing. That's
true.
That's a whole different scenario. I think
True.
It's interesting because the Chiefs have done this before. The reclamation project is a theme for Brett Veach. Take somebody else's first-round draft pick that didn't work out and see if you can make a fit, obviously at a reduced cost, especially in the draft capital. But it's also the fact that you have to get going and do everything you can to add weapons to this offense to make a run right now. And we all know that they are in a right now format every year with Patrick Mahomes. So bottom line, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Brandon, what do you think this does as an outsider not covering the Chiefs every week? What is the upside here that you see happening?
I mean, the upside is having a reliable, I guess reliable when healthy, wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 2 or 3. Like he's not going to be your wide receiver 1. That's not what he is. He's not going to be your Tyreek Hill. He's not going to do that. But you gave up a little, really a 4th and a 7th when you consider that they're compensatory picks. You gave up very little draft capital for, and that's not the 4th round picks, but you're not getting a Kadarius Toney type in the 4th round right now.
Right.
But to have a depth receiver that can break open a home run play out of nowhere, I think the capital is great. To the people talking about OBJ, you don't stop pursuing OBJ because of Kadarius Toney. I promise you that. But yeah, I think that you're adding a wide receiver 2 or 3 if he reaches his ceiling and if he's happy where he's at, which he clearly wasn't with the Giants, considering he got traded and immediately started firing off tweets about it. So I think that if you can maximize Kadarius Toney's skill set and his talent, which if anybody could do it, it's Andy Reid, then you're getting a ton of bang for your buck, which is, like you mentioned, very little buck.
Yeah, and it's not a top 100 pick. You pointed that out. It's basically a 4th round pick. So I think that does matter in this trade. And really quick, the other thing you pointed out, if anybody can get the best out of him, Andy Reid can. I would also argue that the other point of if anybody can get the best out of him from a QB perspective, it's Patrick Mahomes. You're absolutely correct. I think that the backyard style that both of these guys play with at times is going to make this a lot of fun, and we will see how that turns out. I have to ask the question because Tony Lejeune pointed this out. Is Kadarius Toney more like Dante Hall? There's a throwback for you.
That's a bit before my time.
I was going to say, Brandon, you were minus 7 years old at that point.
I will not say, because I also saw in the chat someone was like, he's better than Hall. I wouldn't say that. I won't say that. I would say that he is a similarly explosive weapon. I think that's fair to say. Maybe Hall was a little ahead of his time. Where now in the modern NFL, he's like a lot of guys that we've seen back in the day. I feel weird saying back in the day, but a decade or so ago, where they'd be properly used now. I think that I'll say Kadarius Toney might be more productive in the long run just because he's working in this offense. But I don't think talent-wise he's better.
I'm with you.
Last question that I see right now, at least I have to ask this to you both. And more specifically, you probably, Ryan, but Brandon, you're more than welcome to join in on this. Infopocalypse asks the question, is this further hampering Sky getting reps and / experience?
Go ahead, Brandon. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think that, at punt returner, sure, he could definitely lose some reps there, which I don't think any Chiefs fan would have an issue with. But I think long term, I don't think it should matter too much. You're working in an offense where there could be multiple productive receivers, and they're kind of different types. I get it that a lot of people would rather see Sky in the slot or Kadarius in the slot, but I don't think that they're the same skill set where they're going to be overlapping the same way that the Giants had concerns with Kadarius and Wan'Dale Robinson, where it's like, well, they're very similar skill sets, so they're going to kind of step on each other's toes and fill that same role. I don't think that's the same thing here.
Yeah, I don't see that as well. In fact, folks, I'll elaborate on Monday's show. Don't miss that. But just put it this way. I actually think this helps Sky more concentrate on learning the offense, because that's the thing is we're not talking about. Andy Reid's offense is crazy tough. I know Kafka's been in New York this year. That doesn't mean that he's put enough in it for Tony to be able to walk in and play. So I think that this takes some pressure and some distraction, quite honestly, off of Sky. Let him get into the offense a little bit more and actually be more productive there. Let Tony come in and do some of the things when you want to get a package or you need that spark, whatever. I think that will happen. Overall, I think that just makes a strength stronger. I think OBJ will do the same thing. I do think that they are at least interested. We'll see if they can pull that off. If they do that, I don't see how you can rush more than 3 guys the rest of this season. Because if you put all these guys on the field, the demise of Mike Burton's season will probably come around. And I'm sorry, Mike, I'm here for you. But you got to get those guys on the field when you have this much talent at this wide receiver position. We want to know what you guys think, too. If you missed us live, and I haven't been able to see the stream, I don't know, something went wrong, and I haven't seen it for like 20 minutes now. If you missed the stream, you want to ask questions, put your comments down below. We'll try to come back to them next week as we get in there. Brandon, thanks for jumping on with us and give us all the background that we need that makes me not crazy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's one more piece of background information that you need to know.
Talk to me, Goose.
If you like rap, Kadarius Toney's not bad. I'll say it.
For real?
I will say that. I have listened to it, and I genuinely like his music. So if you want to listen to Young Joka, is what he goes by.
Okay.
It kind of slaps. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Rock and roll. Okay. Speaking of slaps, somebody get him some decent barbecue when he gets to town, make him happy, and let him adjust pretty easily. I am a proponent of slaps. Again, you guys make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube. Get subbed over on the audio platforms. Check out Locked On Sports Today on Odyssey and all the audio platforms. Go listen to Brandon on Locked On Gators. Go read on the Giants. I know you probably don't want to now because now you got your own little version of a Giant, but that's okay. But Brandon, thank you. We appreciate you. You guys enjoy your Friday. We'll be back with you next time. Take care. We'll talk to you next time.